Dun, 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 dun. Oh, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? Hi, it's G-Axis. It's G-Axis. Hello, G-Axis. G-Axis is here. G-Axis. G-Axis. They finally made a G-Axis. Legacy G-Axis. It's about $30 on the. Go get one. So you have your own G-Axis. And I just listened to the No Doubt album Tragic Kingdom with Disney. The next, and I was just watching the movie. Today's episode just aired today. It's the 20th of July, and we are going on to the next one, which is Tragic Kingdom. It's a lot of fun. There were only, a few little minor issues during the production of putting this together, that is, story-wise. Other issues are going on all over the set, but primary issues there. We still have the set, we still have the production, so they're gonna surreptitiously guerrilla film the next episode. But no one suspects that's what we're doing. Still don't know about the Up in the Air convention on the 27th to 28th of next month. We'll probably be fine for that. We will see. Primary will definitely return in the next one because Chromia 311 did a sequel. Well, technically, the second half is called Tragic Kingdom, named after the No Doubt song. I'm probably going to call the episode The Tragic Kingdom, just so UMG doesn't go, wait a minute, you're using the album names. No, The Tragic Kingdom. That's what I'm going to call it. The original director was going to be Frutty Guy. Well, that's conceivable, but he's never directed anything. It's probably just going to be Calcat again. Anyway, so we have Chromia 311 from Lexicons. This particular script is 2003. It's about 19 years old. The script says it's 180 minutes. It's really, really thick. Easily would be a two-parter if we were going to do a two-parter out of it. It's the same size as the Halloween special from a couple of years ago where we went to the Halloween thing. Made that a two-hour Halloween episode. I think it was 2 hours. Yeah. This one is going to have a similar sort of creepy vibe. I've read it twice, so I know what's going on. Flip through it again. Now, there was a central character of Octane in the previous one. She wanted the triple changers to all come together and do things and be part of the primary and secondary thing. Adding extra stuff in there, adding siblings and stuff. Silly Kelly. I just gotta say, maybe in the opening scene in the teaser, she should just say, all that stuff about the Decepticon Matrix, it doesn't come up ever again. So maybe she was lying. Well, what? I'm a Decepticon. That's what it does. It makes you, make stuff up. So something similar might happen. So it looks like it's enormous, but actually, it is double-spaced. It is double-spaced, so it's more like 90 pages. The action in this character of Octane is playing the role of a J-Axis type of character. The third guy mentioned in this story, the one you don't see. In the original story, you get to see him, but here, let's see. So he could totally show up in this. It would be an interesting explanation for why he shows up in it as well. I'm not sure I don't think the Requiem Blaster is in this, but we were looking up the Requiem Blaster. And that is a Calcat thing. The Transformers iconography of the 90s, which developed into the later stuff, we refer to the Requiem Blaster back in the 86 Trans Encarta, 86, 87, during G1. The Requiem Blaster is a G1 weapon. It is similar to Megatron's cannon, but it's an Autobot version. So that's what it is. The Requiem Blaster. Which is consistent with, oddly enough, the Japanese Transformers, which at the time in '86 I didn't know about. I don't know if it comes up in here, but it might. Maybe she's looking for it. Because the backstory of Silly Kelly, the backstory of Solus Prime and Megatronus is that Megatronus is the fallen, and they sort of retconned him into the Fallen from the movies, but he's not really. He's like the pre-Megatron. He's Megatronus, and he's the Fallen. So if she's Solus Prime, she's one of the 12 primes that Alpha Trion pre-Alpha Trion built, E3 rebuilt, and Blitzwing is not. They kind of implied that she and Blitzwing were rebuilt together and whatever. The Triple Changers were separate, really. They shouldn't be, because they would be primes then, because that would be their how they do that. They're not primes. They just have special abilities. Yeah, but yeah. So Solus Prime. She used to be Solus Prime. She used to be Megatron's mate. Then when she was primary again, she was during the Decepticon era. She was she was one of Megatron's a Megatron concubine during the Gladiator era on Cybertron, and at that point she was under the name Crasher, so she wasn't called Primary at that point. So, but he knew that she had changed her name to Primary, but they remembered because her spark keeps getting reincarnated, rebuilt into other guys. She was. I'm assuming that what happened is I built up this. I'm assuming that what happened is Primary was because it's kind of implied in here in this next story. She was one of the remember that vault in G1 where Starscream got some of the Transformer Sparks personality components, Sparks and Beast Wars personality components. They were Sparks, and took the Sparks and made the Combaticons. So the Gestalts and the Combiner Wars and all that. Basically, their enigma of combination, their Combiner Wars, a line continuity thing. So she was one of the people in that storage facility. So she was in there too. So she'd been offline for ages. She'd been revived only a year ago by somebody. Well, we're going to find out by who in this one. And it is connected to the exiled planet implied in the previous story. So this episode, this new one, this next one, hopefully one parter, but it might be two, takes place on Raycon, the exiled planet. Because they go on a quest to find other stuff. Yeah, and you kind of have to see this season. You kind of have to watch it all. Watch episode 1, 2, and 3. It's kind of like a Netflix show, but better than the Netflix Transformers. And you have to go and watch it. Not as many action scenes though. It's not. It's more like an action drama, a mystery drama. It was not meant to be heavily action oriented. The previous episode had, the one that we just did had battles you didn't really see that were just flashes of combat going on in the background. Because it was from the perspective of the Decepticons. So we ordered the Decepticon lair and hung out with them. See what they're like. It was very interesting. So that actually works. Let's show that. We've been hanging out with the Autobots for a couple episodes. Let's do that. Yeah, you got to figure what would also imply that they should have for Prison Planet too from the pilot. And it would beg the question: what would a Decepticon have to do to get locked up in a prison planet? So maybe what's his name's going to show up too? Maybe our Skulgrin guy, even though I think he got blasted at the end of that episode, but I bet they didn't kill him. They just blasted him. So it's possible that what's his face could show up again. The Skull guy. Yeah, it's possible. It's not impossible. Well, we'll see. Maybe not. He does stand up weird. But yeah, primary returns. It's kind of funny. This thing is just released. Yeah. So good with being the next one will be episode 4. And middle of the series, middle of the season. And so Bludgeon, that was his name. Bludgeon was his name. Taking Skullgrin, no, it's Bludgeon. He could come back. It'll be fun. Again, it's going to be a dozen of one group and a dozen of another. In this, it's hundreds of them, but I want to make it just the dozen. It works better that way. It's a Dirty Dozen type of thing. It's an Inglourious Bastards type of thing. And the song Tragic Kingdom in the next one. It's a song. It's about a messed up tropical kingdom. I'm assuming or it's a disaster, a Banana Republic kingdom that's fallen apart, and it's cheesy, and it's like an old movie, and there's just like popcorn littering the theater and stuff, and it's all run down, and it's cheesy movies, like the 90s. A very happy song for such a subject, and it was a rock song. It was an American rock song, Anaheim, and I think they were related to Disney, so it'll be Disney. So we can use it, but we're not related, but kind of. And if it's Paramount, we also can use it. So Hasbro can use it. But yeah, we can't use the music, of course. But sure, Tragic Kingdom. Yes, Tragic Kingdom. The pilot was Chillauler 1, but we changed the name to, because Chillauler 1 is used too much. Doing extra matrices and having them all be the relatives of other people, and really knowing what was coming next, knowing that doesn't really do anything other than they have this weird relationship going on. In a past life, she was the queen mother of all Decepticons, and technically Autobots, because the 12 Primes were also built at the same time. So they're siblings of them. They're the 12 Primes and Megatronus are the ancestors of the other group. So I'm assuming that they also do the Autobots. And there was a reproduction of Transformers, reproduction on the internet. They mentioned the budding, and they mentioned building a robot person and all that other stuff, or asexual reproduction stuff, which we explored. In the story, we had an episode. We had a couple episodes where, basically, the first season we had a couple on the ship, asexually, and they reproduced and had a child, and then that child grew up on the first season, and which was kind of cool. It's a scout. He grew up on the show, and I think he was ultimately killed, but he grew up on the show. Yeah, he got reformatted or something. But yeah, he did a bunch of stuff. Later on, we get to see Road Rage and Trax going on an adventure instead of Jazz and Jazzy. But it is a Jazzy story from Jazzy. Jazzy was a Transformers fan from the 2000s, the 90s and 2000s, who had written the sibling rivalry episode. Very good episode last season. We had rewritten it so that it was Scout and Rashi. So one of the other fans, we made it Scout and Rashi, and we made her that Mindwipe. Transformers movie Mindwipe, who plays Quintesson in this last one. But it's not her, it's just a Quintesson playing her. Sorry. So we're going to do it again, but it's Trax and Road Rage, so that comes later. Because she wrote a sequel, not Go Home Again, another novella. That will be in the last, the finale later on. And some other stuff. So, yeah, that's what I want to do. That's what we're going to try to put together, the teaser at least tonight, and see what this is about. There's Spike and Daniel are in this a little bit, but we're going to cut them out. So we want it just to be about the robots. The Constructicons were mentioned in the last one, but never shown. Because we wanted to keep it just a few dozen of here guys and these guys. We wanted to keep this story just We didn't want to make it an epic, everyone's in it ensemble. It's much easier to have 6 or 7 here and 6 or 7 there. Just visually, you're trying to tell an episode of Transformers. You're not trying to tell a miniseries novel, which this actually would be if you shot it word for word. It would be ridiculous. There's a lot of the smaller ones that appear too, and that would just look strange, like Rumble's talking to Cyclonus. And yeah, it's really, really tough to do the cassette guys at all and make it look like anything. They just don't look right. I remember back in the day in Trans Tech, the scene where Rumble was supposed to say something, and he was so tiny, it was shot on video, so it was early digital video. Zoom in on that guy so close. It didn't have zooming in, like the software didn't zoom in, so the camera had to zoom in, and it looked really bad. Now they have the technology to zoom in now, but it would just look really strange. We did some of that, but not much. Tragic Kingdom. This is a sort of a behind the scenes of what I thought of the last episode. I've rambled about it. We're going to see what happens next. This is the behind the scenes. It's technically it's going to be part of it's a behind the scenes. So watch the episode on my channel, on the CalCast Reviews channel, where we have over 1,000 videos, of various reviews and things. So we need more people to subscribers, like and subscribe. We need more so we need lots more subscribers so we can go to that convention. Silly Kelly, man, we just done the teaser. I'm going to direct this one. I get to direct it instead of Frotzy Guy. And this is Tragic Kingdom. So we're doing Tragic Kingdom. And this was the teaser for Tragic Kingdom. And I held back a little because that was a white balance adjusted. So, this is going to be wild. So, strap in. So they go to the Exile planet, which was hinted in the pilot episode. Well, the second pilot. First pilot was Star Trek meets Transformers, and then the Lexicons series technically is the first one. Till 1, which I believe we've renamed. What did we call that one? I don't know what the name. I don't remember what the name of that one. But anyway, it's Prison Planet 1. And now we're going to the Exile planet. We're going to, I think it's Raycon or Recadon. Not Raycon. The earbud planet. Yeah. Or Recadon or something. Rosmacom. Something like that. But we're going there. We're going there. Yay. We sort of, as it's in the behind the scenes, sort of retconned the Matrix thing at the end, because even though that was fun to say all that stuff, it has no relevance to this story, so kind of have to address it a little bit and say actually the Decepticon Matrix was a broken piece of equipment the Quintessons were using to control them. It didn't work. Alpha Trion replicated it to form the Autobot Matrix, but he couldn't fix the original, and I'm assuming hid it from the Quintessons. They'd know about it, because they would have come after them. And the original one was lost to time. The Decepticons don't need a Matrix anyway, because it's a moral center for them. It's a wisdom and knowledge. It's the tree of knowledge kind of thing. They wouldn't need that. So it's not folly. That it's not literally the opposite. It's just that it doesn't have wisdom of the ages. It just has Cliff's Notes and stuff and broken stuff in it and those things. It didn't work to control them. So that's the idea. But it's not addressed in this story really so much. So I had to go in the teaser and kind of retcon it. Kind of say actually, if it does give you visions from Starscream, that's fine. If it does do that for you, that's fine. And it might give her that. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But it's not. You can't use it. It's a false prophecy thing. It can't be used for that. So, also that we have our Jax's toy to arrive today. So Dan handed it over. It's at the door. So there it was. So it's going to be in the movie, and yeah. So instead of I think there's another Autobot the Decepticon that shows up that her other lover, and Octane is in it and stuff, and like Octane just doesn't fit that bill. He's just not even this version's. It fits the bill of the boyfriend guy, because if Blitzwing and Astro Train are underlings to her, and they're respected and stuff, they're not gonna be, yeah, like lovers to her. Cyclonus can't even handle her. Yeah, so that just doesn't make sense. It's just weird. So no, they're not. It's Jaxus, who was one of her ex-boyfriends in the story. That makes more sense. So that's what we're doing. Anyway, so that was the making of tonight, the teaser, on the 20th of July. So yeah, Tragic Kingdom. Greetings. My head floating in space. Huh. So, yeah, this is, it was hot today. There were other things going on. Couldn't do any filming until now. It's 9, it's after 9, so I'm going to stop. But we're at page 22 in the script, and of the first 50 pages of those 4 50-page segments, roughly. This is not going to be that long. It seems like that's a lot, but it's not. I've already taken out one extension of the hot rod scene that didn't need to be in there, and I've already taken out the slightly other scene as well. Nightbeat was originally in it, but the one line that he gets, I gave it to Cup. Doesn't need to be in the script. Galvatron's going to show up in the next scene, because the Autobots and Galvatron are there. Clearly, he has to be at the story. They're not in a Wrath-type situation, transition to Wrath story. They're not in a Lord and Commander situation where the planet is messing with them and making them see other things. It's just that because it's kind of soap opera-y, the main characters just march into the room and other ones. Similar to a lot of modern sci-fi Netflix shows and CW shows and stuff like that. More modern, some DC ones too, where the action is pulled forward by the characters encountering situations as opposed to them growing. So they're encountering situations that are going on and just switching to the next thing because they're a little ADD. But this scene makes sense once we get Artemis back. In that, for the first 20 minutes of the story so far, Artemis had walked off and we didn't know what happened to her. She apparently went over to the Autobot camp is what happened. So we're still not sure what happened to Artie, but we'll find out later. but yeah, they got separated. So they're on a planet somewhere where there's an Autobot camp. Apparently in the couple of weeks between this episode and the last one, our primary helped out on Earth, and Blitzwing also helped out on Earth. Blitzwing didn't have a good experience, but primary did, basically. So it's not a made-up thing where they're saying, oh, she's just imagining all these good things that happened. No, it's not the planet doing that. That's not what's happening. They actually did, because she's Mary Sue. And we know she's Mary Sue for the Chromia's character. But she's in the company of another character from something else, from Artemis. Artemis in the script, though, is Sandstorm. And they changed it back to Artemis from the other script because it totally makes more sense. It's her. So we've sort of made it make more sense. Yeah, so it's fine the way it is. So we're gonna go with it and just do more filming tomorrow, hopefully on Sunday. Yeah, every chance we get, we should do filming and try to finish episode 4 if possible. This would be awesome. Any chance we get, just be filming. So that's it for the evening, and next scene will be Galvatron showing up to say they gotta go back to Char. But they're all on the same planet. They're all on this exile planet. And they're not necessarily on the exile planet of the forgotten ones from the other story. They're on the exile planet. And the exile planet is a different planet. It's one of the Ross Macabre planets from Generation Scorned. They're on the Generation Scorned type of Ross Macabre planet. the Autocons and Deceptibots. But they've been reduced in number in this universe. So there's probably not going to run into very many of them. But we'll see. And I don't think the Requiem Blaster has anything to do with the story. I had mentioned him in the previews, but I don't think that actually enters in anywhere. So don't look for it. Yeah. So we're going to follow the script. We just left some characters out. Didn't need to be in there. Following the script. So, but yeah, it makes more sense for it to be Artemis, who is the daughter of Ultra Magnus. That makes more sense in this story. Instead of Sandstorm. Because why are they... Yeah, if they have no... The Triple Changers are somehow related to Ultra... What? No, that's stupid. She's not literally their mother. She's the mother of... The Queen Mother of the Decepticons. She's not literally... She didn't birth them in the budding pit or whatever. She birthed Artie and Artemis. She didn't birth them in the pit. So that makes more sense. Because why would she birth the Triple Changers? Doesn't make sense. The Triple Changers were just there when she was there. How would that even work? It doesn't work. No, that's not what happened. so some liberties have been changed in the script because visually we don't want to have 36 people on each side and they're hard to explain. So I didn't do that. Anyway, so yeah. So being really weird. Galvatron kidnaps her. In the original story, he actually set her up really bad, but that doesn't make sense. So the revised version, he just shoots her and wounds her and takes her. So he's gone, basically. Okay, I guess it is a little bit. There's a bunch of scenes in the Decepticon installment that they go back and forth too quickly. It's confusing. So we're going to stick with the Autobot stuff here and then go over there. So it'll make sense in the story because you can't really block it that way. So here's what we're going to do. And, yeah, so there's a bunch of scenes with primary being captured that's going to be separate from this Blitzwing stuff. So, making of, like in the other one, we didn't want to use the Constructicons. So we brought Slice back, and he's going to cover all of the Constructicons moments, because that adds too much. There's, even adding Slice is kind of iffy. But, yeah, so that's what we're going to do. And this is the fucked up part. The messed up part where Galvatron basically goes insane. As his ex-queen / many times reincarnated into this other person, into primary, a lover, apparently eviscerated. And yet another author who wants to kill off her main character and have it come back like more as a badass. So, making of, again, briefly, page 34. I wanted to point out that Optimus Prime and them discussing the Matrix is very much like what's in the teaser, and very much like what they hit at already. So we don't need that scene. So on page 34, there's a scene within the story where there was a discussion of the Matrixes and how they work. And we already been there, so we don't need it. Except for Magnus being worried about her. We don't need to go to the Autobots yet. We want to stay with the Decepticons for a little while. But they have apparently killed her. So, chapter 6 here, on 34, has... Then cuts back to Prime again. Okay. As of note, this is sort of a scene, 24th, I think. 25th. The scene in the Autobot repair bay. So, So, I wanted to convey that they're there, but they're obviously not in the operating theater. I just wanted to convey this with a shot. And then I will close off the operating theater, and then they'll be in the shot. Okay. So that's what I'm doing. The problem here is they're, again, recapping events we already know. The last story about Primary and the Quintessons and all that. These are events we already know. We don't really need this. It's filler. They're talking about events they already know. So they're already saying, okay, yeah, I fought the Quintessons and so did I, and yeah, we don't really need, yeah. And then there's this weird scene in which the female Autobots are mentioned having been slaughtered, and it's tell not show, and it should be show not tell, and we don't want to really go back and animate that. Yeah. Yeah, all of this stuff about their eerie laugh and the destruction of Autobot force. So here, some of this kind of stuff. Yeah, well, they're discussing this while she's being repaired, which is kind of messed up because he's comatose. But yeah, I would start on 46 with Optimus Prime saying, "I thought you was coming to deactivate me, not save me." So all that other stuff, backstory from a million years ago, you don't need. You don't need it. Yeah, just skimming through it. It's like, we don't need any of that. It's long enough as it is. It's long. So, yeah. I just thought to quickly point out an amusing line in here that happens later while they're discussing reassembling. Or what's her face? One of them tells the other one, "Get some soldering wire in here." Like, soldering wire? This person that wrote this is not a mechanical engineer, clearly. I'm not either, but she clearly isn't. And yeah, a solder is just... If she's got, like, soldered pieces from, like, copper wiring and stuff, and it's in there, it's gonna break. She's a robot. It's not like... Yeah, it's just not... No, she's a freaking, like, robot. Yes. It's funny. Just thought I would mention that, because it's funny. Yeah. 51, slightly altered scene. Yeah. No Skylinks in it. Instead of Skylinks saying the line about exquisite physique, she says it to them. Okay, so yeah. Okay, making of scene change up to 60. There's a 2.5 page scene where Primary has healing powers for some reason. She used them earlier on Skylinks, who isn't in this version of the story. Doesn't make sense. And now she used them on Daniel to cure him of being crippled from that episode of Rebirth. She zapped him something. It's like, what? She now has healing powers? What? She didn't have that before. She suddenly does. For no reason at all. Why even put that in there? It doesn't. So there's stuff in here that doesn't make sense. So just thought I would note that. Take note. And about a page or two was a lot about Octane, who is not in this story. So we're not going to rewrite it so it's someone else. He's just not in the story. So note that he is not there, and there's no reason to include him. We're going to finish off this tape, and hopefully we can get where we're going. Get halfway through. 64. Alright. No Octane parts. Page 64. And yeah. It's all the making of this moment here. We have roughly an hour left of tape. Taking it all the way to the end of this scene on the planet. And action. Take note, making of 67. Not doing any of the Octane stuff. And Octane is also obsessed with her. We don't need that. Primary eye. Octane 69. 69. That's my favorite number. So instead of them finding their prospect, they find him dead. This is funny. Okay, so cut this here. Yeah. So several script revisions. We're halfway through the story at this point, and I went through the other half of the story and took out some characters like Octane and Broadside and some other, and the Decepticon twins and some of the Runabout and Runabout show up. Why? Some extra plot points that weren't necessary in this story. You're trying to tell a story in an hour to an hour and a half, and you don't need all of the filler stuff, and it is filler, where these other characters are doing things, because it doesn't lead anywhere. So if you want your plot threads to work all the way to the end, you have to do it so it's things that don't lead anywhere. Like does Octane lead into anything? The original story, if you want to go back and read the original story in Lexicons, the Octane one was yet another lover of Primary. And that doesn't make any sense from what they established in the first episode. They're not lovers necessarily. Whoever wrote this doesn't understand how relationships work, so they did it vicariously through robots, which is kind of ironic and funny. But yeah, if she's got like 15 guys pining for her because she's awesome, the ones that are pining for her, she's not going to get with the ones that are pining for her. She's just going to think they're dorks. That's how it works. So she's not going to go for it. It's sort of like how the hot biker chick, stoner chick in your clique from high school, you're not going to get with her. Everyone else is, but you're not. And that's fine, because, you're out of her league, So it's all good. That kind of thing. It's the popular prom queen chick. Same thing. You're not going to get with her. It's a popular prom queen chick. That's not going to happen. You're going to get with the science fiction nerd chick. Goes the other way around, too, to a certain extent. But, yeah, you're not going to get with a popular jock guy unless he's using you. It's not going to work there either. So, yeah, can't go the other way. You're not going to get with you might get with the science nerd guy, and you're not going to get with the stoner dude because he's just going to use you to buy drugs. So that's not going to work. So yeah, that doesn't work. See? And also the dynamic is weird because Primary is supposed to be descended from the ancestor of the Primes, Solus Prime, in the story. Although we did add that it's Solus Prime to clarify. It wasn't in the script like that. Granted. However, that makes more sense. Okay, it's Megatronus, the precursor of Megatron, and his wife, Solus Prime. His mate, Solus Prime. And the Fallen, from the IDW, and the other one, the Image Comics, and the other ones, the Fallen, the one that was in the movies as well, but really didn't seem to have a mate. Although, technically, Quintessa could be her on the planet in Last Night. That could be her. That could conceivably be a version of her on the planet, and so it works in the live action movies too. So yeah, she's an ancient of soul. She's an ancient being, basically. She's a demigod, and none of them stand a chance of being with this ancient soul that's a demigod. That's just not going to happen. It would be like okay, like X-Men kids, think Rogue. You're not going to shack up with Rogue. You're not going to shack up with Storm. Not really going to shack up with Thor either, because it's not going to happen. But yeah, so it's like no. Those guys don't stand a chance. So only the leader ones stand a chance. So Cyclonus, Magnus, Megatron, Galvatron stand a chance because they're leaders, whereas the followers aren't going to. So Octane does not make sense. Blitzwing does not make sense. And if they're implied that they are her wards anyway, she's not going to be with them. That would be weird. It'd be like the teacher just going out with their students. So yeah, that's a story arc we did not need. She isn't really Solus Prime. She's kind of like a descendant, like great granddaughter or something. And so, but she has her memories, I guess, or some of her elements, whatever, in there, and. She's the first Decepticon. She's the Decepticon Matrix. She's basically everything. She's a Mary Sue. But her flaw, hence the title, is the Tragic Kingdom, named after that No Doubt song, clearly. Is that the Tragic Kingdom is the Tragic Kingdom. Yes, we know it's a No Doubt song. And in the song, the Banana Republic in the song, the strange land. I don't know if it's a Banana Republic exactly, but it's a strange land. And in that strange land, it's a tragic kingdom. They're it's falling apart. The Emperor has no clothes. That type of story, the classic story. He's not really the Emperor's new clothes. It's an old story. The joke with that one is that the king is given imaginary clothing to wear that's sewn by the magician and goes out and he's actually naked. And he's so delusional and self-fulfilled that he thinks he's not naked. Goes out and he's like, oh, I'm in my robes. So that's an old story from years ago. But yeah, he's actually naked. So anyway, so in this case, it's more like the song, the No Doubt song, in that she has replaced Galvatron. And the last scene that we did, Galvatron isn't back. Some of the Decepticons cacked one of the Decepticon combiners there. Onslaught. We're not sure why. We're not sure why she did that, but or he did that. But we'll find out who that is in the next scene, and then we'll go on from there. And you notice there aren't a lot of Autobots and Decepticons in the story to begin with. In the story, she throws in all of them, but we can't film all of them. I have a lot of them, but that would be really confusing to have just an army of Decepticons pummeling another army of Autobots. It's not interesting. So the story, soap opera-like story here, the reality show story here is that it's really not about the battle. It's not about the planet, we condensed the planet so that it's not about that. We condensed it down to one planet. They're on the exile planet the whole time. Instead of all over in space, every planet. There's an epic story all across space. Avengers-type finale. Yeah, and really, the ending kind of leaves it ambiguous in the ending. We kind of have to do an ending, so we're going to have to add one. Because we can't have it be ambiguous. We can't have this Mary Sue actually be in command of the Decepticons at the end. So, spoilers. That can't really happen. That just doesn't make sense. This Mary Sue character pops out and goes like, oh, I'm in charge now. Like, for a while you're in charge. So in a way it's like the Transitions of Wrath thing. But this time, it's not the planet messing with them. She actually does think she's in charge of that group of Decepticons on that planet. Well, until they can repair Galvatron. So it's not the Wrath planet. They're not imagining it. It's not a dream. It's nothing like that. And it was pretty obvious of the Wrath Planet stories from 2 seasons ago that it was a dream. When you look at the story from the beginning to end, it's like, oh, okay, this weird stuff that's going on isn't really happening. But in this case, it was dementing them. But in this case, no, it's not. It's not a dream. No. It's happening to them on the planet, to these two groups. So it's actually more like, it's kind of more like a Forbidden Planet than the Wrath Planet. In Forbidden Planet, the id monster is actually what's causing the destruction. It's more like that, except there is no id monster. It's just that Primary is the id monster. So, yeah. Her ancient past is making her way more powerful than she should be. Yeah, so. It's Frankenstein in a way. They rebuilt her. It's Frankenstein. It's not the Doctor that's the monster. It's not. Frankenstein is the name of the Doctor, not the monster. Right? The monster is just the monster. No. So, anyway, there's a plot development in the story we cannot film because we're on the exile planet, not on Earth. Apparently, the Decepticons, and there's only a dozen of them in the story. In the story itself, only a dozen of them. They're invading Earth. She's ordered an invasion of Earth. We can't film that just because that's not possible. It's like an alien invasion of Earth with a dozen Decepticons. So we get their asses whipped. So we're gonna... So yeah, the next scene is Magnus and Springer meeting after Magnus has been released. And then Prime coming back all messed up. Yeah. To 105 and 106 and 107. So the planet is being attacked and stuff. There's no way that works at all. We just can't film it. So it's long enough as it is. We're over the limit. So yeah. We're doing 126 again, and then the end of 126. So we're doing 126 on this tape. Note, yeah. So note that all this is Octane, the Decepticons, Scrapper, Scavenger, the Autobots talking. She goes back to the Decepticons somehow. There's no explanation. It's a couple of chapters. It's 20 pages that we did not use. Just so you know, we didn't use 20 pages of it. It just rambles on. They didn't need to be in the story. 20 pages we didn't use. We're going on to the last act. Well, the last, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I skimmed through to the end. Yeah. Problem is that they introduced 3 other, the Seekers show up. Starscream shows up. There's some more Artemis stuff. Yeah, the ending doesn't make sense. There's more Artie talking and more, what's your name talking, but I think we're just going to have to make up the ending, because I don't think that the script doesn't, yeah, he just introduces new people with an intent to sequelize it, but I don't think it needs that. Well, yeah, it just doesn't need that. Silly Kelly. Yeah, what's that? Silly Kelly Blix. Calicat. Silly Kelly Blix. Same guy. Obviously. Yeah, so this is... yeah, you direct this one. This was The Tragic Kingdom. The title is stolen from a No Doubt song, so this is called The Tragic Kingdom. It's supposed to be Tragic Kingdom. Yeah, the last act, basically, yeah, there were 4 acts. The last act, which was 110 pages to 170 pages, roughly, it's really long. It sucked, so I just didn't film it. The last act didn't make sense. They went back to the other Decepticons. Primary basically escapes and hangs out with them for a while, discussing the nature of how they like her, or they don't like her. Then Cyclonus got killed by one of the other Decepticons that wanted to take over, and then there was like this other thing going on with them. And then they went back to the Autobots, and that's kind of how the other ending. The ending ended with her and Magnus hanging out after the war ended, because everybody was basically dead. They'd all killed each other. That's a little dark and emo, so we went with an ending that I came up with, because I read the ending earlier today. Came up with a better ending, where she would be thrown in the brig after there was a trial, and that I put the trial in there. So most of the trial scene is in there. I did cut a lot out, because the trial went on for like 20 pages. Most of it was silly, so I just basically said, okay, well, they're just going to be eyewitnesses to the hearing, and then we don't really know how it ended up. That makes more sense. And have Optimus Prime basically decide, okay, we're going to throw you in the brig and put you on the prison planet, because they're sent you to the prison planet from the pilot. They go back to the prison planet, because the Star Trek Meets the Transformers was not the pilot. The pilot was the prison planet episode. Even though the Star Trek Meets Transformers were fun, and even though Shadow Dancer appears in this one too, still it was fun. Apparently, off camera, Quintessence took Galvatron, and well, it wasn't the Quintessence. It was Shadow Dancer's ship, Junkion ship, and had been commandeered by the Junkions. Shadow Dancer was there, and they put Galvatron back together in this story, and so this version. Comes back, and it's like, so I guess it gets listed in the credits that it's based on Calicat. The ending is based on a 20-minute segment of Calicat changing the ending so that it matches, which we did before in some of the other stuff as well. There have been other ones where we've had that problem, where we had an ending that didn't gel with the series as a whole, or its concept or whatever, that didn't really work. More talking with the characters back and forth. It is late now, but more talking with the characters back and forth didn't seem like it made sense, so I decided not to film that. Just go with the prison break scene, and even as we're putting the prison break scene together, decided, no, we can't kill her. That would be messed up. So she has Matrix powers, because she has powers. She does. She stops the blast. It just absorbs. She absorbs it, falls over. And then from the guns, that Magnus and Cyclonus and Galvatron all meet there at the prison. And they shoot each other, and the blast is absorbed, and she doesn't die because the blast. She's got powers, so she's indestructible, kind of, at this point, because she had the Matrix briefly, and it awakened her previous self. So during the trial thing, so she could stand trial for that. She wants to go to the prison planet. She agrees to go to the prison planet instead of being executed, and they're okay with it because it's more of a humiliation. As a Decepticon, the Decepticons want to go out in a blaze of glory when they die in battle. They want to do that. They don't want to be humiliated by throwing them in jail when they just sit there. So she actually accepts it. Says, I want to go to the prison planet. So she doesn't escape at the end. She's going to go to the prison planet. I don't know how well the blocking worked. I think it did. I think everybody was in focus. When it went handy-cam toward the end there. I think it worked. Hoping it worked. And even if it's a little futzy or weird, it'll still be kind of cool. Yeah. This was Tragic Kingdom. We are at episode 4. Just completed principal photography on the 26th for a release date about 3 or 4 days later from now, the 30th. 2 episodes here in July. So hopefully more of them. Full season of 8. I'm sure it's not going to end with episode 4, although it could. It's all up in the air. It could, but it might go on. The other episodes are not related to this one. This first 4 kind of are a little bit related, but only because of the endings or the teasers at the beginning. These are the beginning or the ending. Kind of implies they're a little related. They establish the Prime stuff, the character stuff. And it's a reality TV show with Transformers. But no humans this time. There was some silly stuff that didn't end up in there. Spike shows up. Daniel shows. It took place in different planets. They went to Char and Cybertron and Earth over and over again. But I decided no, it should be just as one planet. They go to the Exile planet. Unfortunately, we don't learn anything about the Exile planet. They just go there. I think it was visited once before in one of the other stories. And one of our other stories. We went there before. So. We had the Char one. The Char planet. And the last one. So this is the Exile planet. It's near it. Militaria. We're on Militaria. The planet that got sacked. It's now called the Exile planet, but it was Militaria. Yeah. And Char was a base of Militaria. And just to be silly, just because, it's mentioned in the story. They went there. They do address the idea of the Tragic Kingdom in that the Decepticons and the Autobots have that problem of sci-fi, often featured in sci-fi, where there aren't a lot of them. So how on Earth could they take over, or how on another planet, Cybertron, how could they take over anything if there's only dozens of them? They couldn't, really. So it made more sense. You put them on this one planet and this one base, and they're fighting the other dozen people, basically. They implied that some of them died off camera, but we don't know which ones, so they can come back next time. Anyway, so I'm not going to ramble on too much about that. Politics or other stuff, there's no point. It's not really dedicated to anybody. Someone else died in the church cast, but wasn't part of the Trends Tech thing and wasn't part of some other things. Probably not going to put him in the credits at the end. Yeah, maybe. Maybe not. No, maybe not. No. He had nothing to do with this. There's no point in listing that. He didn't have anything to do with it. I'm not even too sure if it is the guy from the cast or some other dude with a similar name. I'm not sure. So I'm going to leave it and not add anything to it. So here's the making of this one. And yeah, we saw some characters from that Star Trek and Transformers thing appear. Slice returns. Yeah. Ooh, yeah. Fun episode. Strange episode. Very odd. Kind of messed up. At one point, she gets dismembered. But the story is Artemis. The story is yeah. The story is about Magnus and Primary. This Magnus and Primary saga. Primary saga. So that's what it's about. Artemis is from the other story, but we put her in this one. It was originally Broadside in the story. She made all the triple changes related to Magnus and Primary, and it's like, why? I made some of them related, but then I fixed it because it was pointed out by Morton Roadkills and some other references that that Artemis Cavalier can't be Magnus's kid, so it's got to be revealed later that she's not, and or at least partly not. So she's sort of. It's probably like how like cats can reproduce with like different different male cats can impregnate a female cat. Transformers, they can kind of do that too. So I guess they have like a. So Magnus might have been with her, but Megatron also was. So she's a little bit Megatron, a little bit him. It wouldn't work in a human, but it works in a robot. Like So Megatron, so a little bit of Megatron there, which makes it make sense. And Artemis is like, oh, okay, Ew. Yeah, so much as that works. The timeline's all over the place. So don't ask. Some future convention thing, they'll be like, somebody in the background will be, the timeline doesn't work because the 11 million years and the 4 million years didn't go together, and then the spaceship, and then and then Ultra Magnus and Megatron wouldn't really have known each other because Ultra Magnus is newer and the other ones are newer. And I would just say, well, the story was a mess and I did what I had to do to fix it. So if there's some screw ups and errors in the timeline, I don't really think anybody's gonna mind because really it's just fun animation. So just go with it. I mean, it's not like I don't think this character is slated to return at all this season. So this is like the halfway point. So she's just there and then she's gone. We only plan doing two of these. So the next 4 are completely different.